In this lesson we're going to look at application settings, payroll settings. The first one here is the default payroll interface. When you add in a new work rule, the work rule is where you define what payroll you're going to export out to. This is just defining what is the default one that it selects. And if you select a different payroll with some different options that need to be set up, this is where you would do it. Block rounding. If you have block rounding turned on in your work rule, in that case where you might have to work a minimum number of minutes per block, you can define the block size. So a default that we've got set here is a 15-minute block, and you have to work 11 minutes of that block to get that 15 minutes. That will make sense if you use block rounding, which is an older style way of calculating time, and it's an option to turn on and off within the work rule. Some options for the processing screen: display the right hand summary, just shows time types on the right hand side of the screen depending on your screen size. Display approximate employee pay cost. If you have amounts of money built into a time type or an allowance, the system will calculate out an estimated payroll cost. Now keep in mind that will be estimated because it won't take into consideration any other form of tax or any other loadings, so it'll only be an approximate. Show times as decimal. That's so that the system will calculate any amounts of time where if you have, say, 6.5 hours, instead of displaying it as 6:30 for 6 hours and 30 minutes, it would display it as 6.5, being in decimal. Most payroll systems expect to see decimal time, but it's an option. You can have it one or the other. In that case, you'll still enter time in hours and minutes, so you'd still enter in 6:30 for 6:30 in the morning. You wouldn't enter in 6.5. In the work rule, you've got the option of entering both as a total for it to calculate, but it'll always display it back as decimal. Display the number of clockings. That's again in the processing screen. By default it's turned on. It's something you can turn it off if you don't need to know how many clockings on an individual day. There's also a selection of warnings that can be used. So the first one being warn if clockings found on a day with no work rule. So if there's no work rule defined on a particular day and there's clockings appear, then it'll bring your attention to the fact there's no work rule there to break it down. You still break it down manually. Warn if no clockings are found on a day with a work rule. So the work rule is expecting someone to work, but no one's clocked in. So again, it'll warn you that that's happened, and it's up to you as to what you do with it. Warn if a work rule detects an out of tolerance clocking. So again, within the work rule you can define tolerances, and if a clocking is found outside of that, it'll just bring your attention more to the case that someone has clocked outside of a tolerance. And if you make any changes there, which I'll just do, let's say I pick a different payroll export, you get to save it. It's saved, and that's it.